The family man who smiled for cameras. The monster who smiled back. Frederick, Colorado, August 13th, 2018. A pregnant mother, 2 little girls, gone. Vanished before sunrise, like smoke through a keyhole. The husband stands on the front lawn, cameras rolling, neighbors watching. He folds his hands, tilts his head, says the words every cop has heard 1,000 times. Come home. We just want you home. His voice cracks in the right places. His eyes water on cue. America leans in. America believes him. America is wrong, because somewhere out past the oil fields, under the Colorado dirt, something is leaking. Something sweet. Something copper. Shanann Watts is in a shallow grave. Bella is in a tank of crude oil. Celeste is in another. And the man on the lawn, the man begging for their return, he put them there. This is the story of a coward with a calculator for a heart. A man who did the math on his own children, who decided the mistress was worth more than the daughters. 5 acts, 1 confession, and a silence that still echoes from a thief pit at the bottom of an oil tank. Act 1. The stain. The empty house, the smiling neighbor, the friend who wouldn't leave. Nicole Atkinson knocks on the door, 12:10 p.m., Monday. Her best friend, Shanann, flew home from a business trip at 2 a.m., missed a doctor's appointment, won't answer the phone. 15 weeks pregnant. This isn't like her. Chris opens the door, bare feet, work clothes, calm as a frozen lake. She's not here, he says. Maybe she's at a friend's. Nicole steps inside, and everything is wrong. Shanann's purse on the counter. Her medication on the counter. Her phone wedged behind the couch cushion. Her wedding ring on the nightstand. The car seats still in the SUV in the garage. A pregnant woman does not leave her children's car seats behind. Not ever. Not for anything. Nicole calls the police. Chris doesn't. Chris never does. Officer Coonrod arrives, walks the house, and he notices what Chris doesn't want him to notice. The sheets are missing from the master bed. Just the fitted sheet, balled in the trash. The bedroom smells of bleach. Chris follows him from room to room, arms crossed tight, breathing shallow. Body language doesn't lie. The officer turns his camera on. Chris leans against the kitchen counter, folds in half, puts his hands on his knees like a man who just finished a marathon he never started. A neighbor's doorbell camera is already telling its own story. 5:17 a.m. Chris's work truck, backing up the driveway, loading something heavy into the bed. Something wrapped. The cops don't know it yet, but that grainy footage, that's the whole case. That's 3 bodies on a trailer hitch. By evening, the story goes national. Shanann is missing. Bella, 4. Celeste, 3. A pregnant mother and her babies, swallowed by a Tuesday morning. Chris stands on the porch and does something strange. He does an interview, unprompted, local news, hands in pockets, rocking on his heels, talking about his wife like she's already a memory. Past tense. Always past tense. I miss them. I want them back. Investigators watching the tape freeze the frame. Past tense. Past tense. Past tense. The man pleading for his family on camera had already buried them before breakfast. Shanann's father lands in Colorado. Friends flood the house. A polygraph is offered. Chris agrees. He fails it, catastrophically. And in a small interview room at the Frederick Police Department, a man named Tammy Lee sits across from him and says 5 words that crack the ice. Chris, we know you lied. Act 2. The shadows. The polygraph, the mistress, the text that burned the lie down. Agent Tammy Lee of the CBI has seen men like Chris before. Pleasant, polite, hollow. The kind of man who smiles at waitresses and forgets the tip. Harmless on the surface, nothing underneath. He fails the polygraph on every question that matters. Did you do anything to cause Shanann's disappearance? Deception indicated. Do you know where she is? Deception indicated. They move him to a smaller room. They bring in his father. Because that's the play. When a man won't break for cops, sometimes he'll break for daddy. Meanwhile, the digital autopsy has already begun. Chris's phone, a graveyard of evidence. Deleted texts, a hidden app called Secret Calculator. Looks like a calculator, opens like a vault. Inside, a woman, Nicole Kessinger, co-worker at Anadarko Petroleum, 30 years old. Dark hair, unmarried, and, according to her own text messages, very much not aware Chris had a pregnant wife until roughly never. Chris told her he was separated, told her the divorce was pending, told her his daughters were great kids, in a voice that sounded like he was reading from a brochure. 6 weeks. That's how long the affair had been running. 6 weeks of hotel rooms, 6 weeks of texts, 6 weeks of planning a life that didn't include the one he already had. Investigators pull cell tower pings. Chris's phone travels to Survey 319, an Anadarko oil site. 5:45 a.m., the morning Shanann disappeared. He stays there 45 minutes, then drives home. 45 minutes. At a remote oil battery, before sunrise, with the truck bed covered in bed sheets. The search warrants fly, drones over the oil fields, cadaver dogs at the house. The dogs hit on the master bedroom, on the living room floor, on the garage. The FBI interviews Shanann's friends. They describe a marriage that looked, from the outside, like a Facebook advertisement. Inside was different. Shanann had told a friend, 3 days before she died, that Chris had been cold, distant, that he'd said he didn't want the baby, that something was wrong and she couldn't name it. The baby was a boy. They had a name picked out. Nico. Nico would never breathe. Nico would die inside his mother, inside an oil tank, inside a man's greed. Back in the interview room, Chris is crumbling. His father sits across from him. Ron Watts, a working man, a quiet man, a man whose world is about to end. Chris starts crying. Real crying. The kind that comes from somewhere below the ribs. I think Shanann did something to the girls. There it is. The pivot. The coward's exit. Blame the dead woman. Investigators lean in. Because whatever comes next, whatever he's about to say, it's going to be a lie built on top of 3 corpses. And they already know where the corpses are. Act 3. The Deviant. The secret calculator, the cold father, the children who knew. Let's open the vault. The secret calculator app, the hidden phone, the double life Chris Watts was building, one Uber to a hotel at a time. Inside, photographs of Nicole, screenshots of real estate listings, notes about our future. A man halfway out the door of his own marriage and too cheap to buy the handle. But the internet remembers everything. And Chris's search history is a museum of a man rehearsing his escape. How long does it take to die from poisoning? Searched. Ways to divorce quickly? Searched. Oil field accidents? Searched. His browser was a confession written in real time, and nobody was reading it but him. He wasn't snapping, he was planning. For weeks. Shanann knew something was wrong. Her texts to friends survive her. He's acting different. He pulled away when I touched him. I don't know who this man is anymore. She was 15 weeks pregnant and watching her husband become a stranger in his own kitchen. She tried to fix it, booked a couples trip, sent him loving texts, flew home from Arizona on a red-eye so they could talk. She walked into her house at 1:48 a.m. She was dead by 4 a.m. Here is what the prosecution will later piece together from his own confession. His own second confession. The real one. Shanann told him she was pregnant with a boy. She was happy. He was not. They argued in bed. He strangled her. While she bled out, her 4-year-old daughter Bella walked into the bedroom holding her blanket. Daddy, what's wrong with Mommy? He loaded all 3 of them into his truck. Shanann in the back. Bella and Celeste still alive, still breathing, still trusting him. He drove 40 miles to the oil site in the blue dawn. Bella said it in the truck. Her last words, according to her father. Daddy, no. Please don't do to me what you did to Cece. She watched him kill her little sister. And she knew. A 4-year-old knew. He smothered Bella with her own blanket. He buried Shanann in a shallow grave between 2 oil tanks, what the industry calls a thief pit. He opened the hatches on the tanks, and he dropped his daughters inside. 800 gallons of crude oil. That was his children's coffin. Then he drove home, showered, made coffee, texted Nicole a flirty emoji, met the school's daycare coordinator at the front door and said Shanann must have taken the girls somewhere. The man who did this did not wake up a monster. He walked into the oil field one and walked out one, and nobody on earth could have looked at him and known. Except the dogs. The dogs always know. And right now, cadaver dogs are circling a rusted oil tank at Survey 319. They're hitting. They're barking. The investigators are putting on respirators because the smell coming out of that tank isn't oil. Act 4. The Trap. The oil field, the shallow grave, the confession on a prison phone. August 16th, 2018, Survey 319, sunrise. The FBI, the CBI, and Weld County investigators descend on the site with search dogs, cadaver units, and warrants stacked an inch thick. Chris Watts is brought to the scene in a squad car, handcuffed, silent. They ask him to show them. He points to a patch of disturbed earth between 2 massive oil tanks. She's there. They dig. 18 inches down, they find Shanann, wrapped in the missing bedsheet, her unborn son still inside her. The autopsy will later note that Nico separated from her body post-mortem inside the grave. A partial birth, underground. Then the investigators look at the tanks. 400 barrels each. Dark, sealed, hot in the August sun. They climb the ladders. They open the hatches. The smell that comes out is not describable in court documents. The men who smelled it have not forgotten. Bella is in one tank. Celeste is in the other. Preserved in crude oil. Small, intact, recognizable. The state of Colorado has a decision to make, and it makes it fast. Chris Watts is charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body, 1 count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy. The death penalty is on the table. Colorado still has it, for now. But Shanann's family makes a request that changes everything. They do not want a trial. They do not want their daughter and grandbabies described in open court by strangers. They do not want Chris to ever speak in front of a jury. They want him gone, buried under paperwork, invisible. The district attorney agrees. Plea deal, full confession, life without parole stacked 5 times. No trial, no spotlight, no final monologue from the coward. Chris takes the deal. And then, months later in prison, he does something no one expected. He gives a second confession, a real one, to 2 FBI agents who fly to his cell with a tape recorder and infinite patience. This is the confession where Bella speaks, where he admits the girls were alive in the truck, where he describes smothering his 4-year-old after she begged him for her life. 5 hours of tape. Flat voice, no tears, answering questions like a man reading an inventory list. How did you kill Celeste? I put the blanket over her face. How long did it take? Not long. Not long! The agents end the interview. They walk out of the prison. One of them, a veteran of decades, says later that he had to sit in his car for an hour before he could drive. Because evil is supposed to look like something. And this one looked like a Little League dad. Mask off. Finally. Completely. The nice guy from the cul-de-sac is gone. What's left is a man in a Wisconsin prison cell, eating commissary ramen, reading Bible study pamphlets, getting fan mail from women who want to marry him. Yes, fan mail. Because America always has room in its heart for one more handsome killer. Act 5. The Void. The empty house. The mother who buried her daughter. The grief that never lands. The house on Saratoga Trail went up for auction. Strangers walked through the rooms where Shanann died, opened the closet where Bella hid her stuffed animals, stood in the kitchen where Celeste ate her last breakfast. The bank sold the place for less than half its value. Nobody wanted to live in that ghost. Sandra Razucek, Shanann's mother, speaks at the sentencing. She looks at the man who murdered her daughter, her grandchildren, and her unborn grandson, and she asks one question. Why did you not just leave? You could have just walked away. He doesn't answer. He doesn't look up. He never looks up. Because there isn't an answer. Not one a human could give. The truth is, he didn't want to pay child support. He didn't want to split the 401k. He wanted the new girlfriend without the inconvenience of the old family. 4 human beings died so a man could avoid an awkward conversation. Nicole Kessinger, the mistress, cooperated fully with investigators. She was never charged. She entered witness protection, changed her name, disappeared into a life she didn't ask for, built on the bodies of a woman she never met. Chris's parents refused to believe the second confession. They went on television. They suggested Shanann killed the girls first. They said their son was being railroaded. Shanann's mother watched this from her couch and wept. The oil field is still operating. Tank 319 is still there. They cleaned it. They certified it. Crude oil still flows through the same valves that flowed around a 3-year-old's body. Industry doesn't stop for ghosts. Frederick, Colorado tried to move on. The cul-de-sac neighbors gave interviews for a while, then stopped. Strangers left flowers at the end of the driveway for months. Then the flowers stopped too. Because grief is a tide, and tides go out. But somewhere, in a box in Sandra Ruchek's house, are 4 urns. Shanann, Bella, Celeste, Nico. A mother, 2 daughters, a son who never took a breath. They are quieter than any courtroom, heavier than any sentence. Chris Watts will live in a cage until he dies. He will be old. He will be alone. And when the day comes, the state will bury him in a numbered plot, and nobody will leave flowers. That is not justice. Justice would have been a 15-minute conversation in a marriage counselor's office. Justice is 4 heartbeats still beating. What he got instead is the only thing the law had left to give: a small gray room. Forever. Epilogue. 4 urns on a shelf. 1 coward in a cage. The math that never balances. They were alive at midnight. By sunrise, a mother, 2 daughters, and an unborn son were gone, erased by a man who couldn't tolerate the paperwork of his own life. We tell ourselves monsters look like monsters, that evil announces itself, that we'd see it coming. We wouldn't. Chris Watts coached t-ball. He kissed his wife in public. He posted birthday photos of his daughters with the word princess in the caption. And he killed them all before the coffee finished brewing. The lesson, if there is one, is the oldest and cruelest lesson in this business. The person most likely to end your life is the one lying next to you. The one who knows your passwords. The one who promised. Shanann tried to fix a marriage to a ghost. Bella begged for her life with words a 4-year-old shouldn't know. Celeste never got the chance to speak. The oil field pumps on. The house was resold. The mistress vanished. The killer writes Bible verses on lined paper in a cell in Wisconsin. And 4 urns sit on a shelf in a grandmother's house, catching the afternoon light. That's all that's left. That's the whole story. The rest is silence.